Hi, it's Paulie here. Yay! Still on a bit of a science fiction bender. So I went looking for good, simple science fiction games that had kind of old school rules sort of feel to them, maybe were D&D based. I found a couple of goodies that go beyond sort of just adapting D&D into space. This one is rather brilliant. Hulks and Horrors. This is the basic black edition. You can get it on drive-through. Again, it's a pretty thin book and it's packed full of goodness. This is a lovely piece of work. It's its own game system. So it's got Dungeons and Dragons style roots. It's that level of original D&D sort of simplicity. You've got D&D style stats that are rolled in D&D style ways, 3d6, you know, strength, intelligence and wisdom and constant char and all that sort of thing is in there. It has classes. So you can choose to be like soldiers or psychers or scientists or pilots and so on. It's got some aliens in it that it's using the aliens as classes, so it's really going for that real old school sort of thing. So there are floating squids, sort of airborne squids, big kind of Ursoid guys, and there are some wonderful amoebic blob races, and some of those are psychic, some of those are really good kind of fighters, some of those are really good kind of technocrats and so on. And what you do with the science characters in this is it's kind of a wizard, really. You have this micro tool and it does amazing things with it, and the scientist, apart from just general science stuff, he's a guy that can figure stuff out. He's also got this amazing tool which has programs in it, and depending on what level you are and how smart you are, you can run a number of different programs on it and they can do science things. And those science things include skin graft and bone welding things, which is, you know, cure light wounds, and you've got scanners which can see through things, and things that can replay past events, and things that can set up noises that chase things away, and things that can do damage. And so it's a lovely kind of utility class. The psychers have got a bunch of psychic powers that they can choose from, and some of the alien races also have access to the psychic powers and also kind of act as scientists. So, you know, hokey but great bones. Now, this is a D20 roll low system. So at its heart is a characteristic check system where if you're trying to check against, you know, intelligence or strength or something, you're rolling a D20 and trying to get beneath the score of the characteristic in order for success. So 20s are fails, 1s are yay, and it keeps this consistent. So the combat system works the same. You've got armor classes which increase in number. The worse the armor is, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to roll that armor class or less to hit. So it kind of works. Essentially, it's old school D&D where, you know, armor class 0 is better than armor class 9. And this is because you're looking for a 10 to hit, but 10 plus the guy's armor. So if he's armor class 9, you're looking for a 19 or less. You know, if it's armor class 0, 10 or less. So nicely done. Lots of very cool weapons and so on in here, obviously. Lots of cool armor. Some of the armor reduces damage that you take, which is really important because the high-tech weapons do, you know, a butt ton of damage. And there are some very nice rules in here for goods and services and purchasing things, and the combat's nice and crisp. And there is a extensive ship design thing. Each party's going to start with a ship. You can either mortgage yourselves to get a ship. You get a ship, but you are up for payments for it, so you can design a shiny new ship under the system. Or you can get a second-hand ship, in which case you randomize what's available, and often it's slightly worn, so the armor, you know, isn't quite as protective. You know, the engines don't do quite as well. Or you can inherit a ship. You know, great Uncle Philbert died and he left you his Starhopper, in which case it's completely random what you get. He dropped dead and he left you whatever he left you. So there's these kind of charts for building all the pieces. You've got some choice. It'll say choose this number of auxiliary systems, this number of secondary systems, so you're not completely lost here. But, you know, so the advantages of a second-hand ship is the party's not up for a big mortgage or anything. The brand spanking new ships, obviously, they're tougher, but you've got to make a real atomic butt ton of money, otherwise the bank's going to, cease your organs in payment. But you've got a home, you've got a ship, you've got this impetus to get out there and explore, and there's a nice combat system for ships. The armor and so on puts extra damage points. Some weapons get past the armor and damage the ship. Other things kind of whittle the armor away first. Some of them have to roll to get past the armor. So but it's nice system. It's simple and it works entirely in theatre of the mind role playing. You don't need maps. You don't need anything more than you needed in good old fashioned D&D. Just some pencil and some sketches of where you are and how things work. But the heart of this game is this idea that there were once civilizations all through the galaxy, and it's got a very Andre Norton feel to it. I don't know if you've ever read the old Andre Norton science fiction books, but there was the ancients, these civilizations of the ancients, and we are all kind of the new civilizations that have got out there. Because what happened was there was this pandemic that kind of wiped out everything. All the old civilizations, they just fell. So we're all newcomers, but there's all these worlds that are overgrown and so on, but they've all got old cities and bases and so on of these guys who are really, really high tech. So they've got the cool treasures, which is what we're after. There's a thing called the Explorers Guild or Surveyors Guild. Now, because all of space is filled with this stuff, they've kind of privatized space. So what happens is you buy the rights to have a claim, essentially, to explore a sector of space. You pay a butt ton of money for that. The guild kind of takes the rights to any big mineral finds that you get there, but you get paid a bonus for finding them, and other stuff that's cool out there, it's kind of that's yours to keep. But there's a lot of things that you can find that are worth money to you, obviously, but other cool stuff that you might want to keep hold of. But the impetus for this is to go out there and do space exploration. Now, there are people who don't pay their guild fees. They just go out there and explore. So there are kind of claim jumpers out there you've got to watch out for. There are pirates. They might have bases in the areas that you've been sent out to explore. There are people who are trying to essentially attack people and steal their claims, because all that matters is that you have the certificate. So you can try and board someone else's ship and steal the certificate, and now you've got it, because the guild doesn't really care that much about keeping close track on who bought what or where, because people lose these things in gambling games all the time. So you got to watch it. It's kind of a Wild West universe out there. They're like ding 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 ding. So that's what they've done. They've made this kind of fun, frenetic sort of go out there and explore, but watch out for all the baddies universe. Now they've got beautiful sort of rules for generating sectors and generating star systems and areas of interest within those star systems. You can also have mishaps as you're traveling in space. They've got some really cool ones. You might end up in all kinds of places or have improbability events. So you generate the environments, and I actually like this better than Traveller, because I think it's a better system, because one of the problems with, say, Traveller is you just, it's a tainted atmosphere, but it doesn't give you specifics, whereas this thing will tell you this is a carbon dioxide atmosphere. The gravity is this high, it's dense, it actually gives you more to work on. This place has serious sulfur plume volcanoes, sulfur dioxide's everywhere. Oh, okay. Well, that sounds poisonous. I better not breathe that. It gives you way more things. Now you roll to see if there's life on a planet and its environment, affects that. But of course, we're erring on the side of there being way more life out in the universe, because that's cool. But we also get planets and so on that can have alien ruins and things on them. You roll for interesting planetary details. There's lovely random charts just to give colour to different places, and some of these things might become really interesting in themselves, but then you roll to see if there's been cool discoveries. They got a great set of charts for figuring out bases and how they're constructed. You find different sorts of things. You could find a whole planet that's all cities, and these are all dungeons that you then go down and you explore, or it could be pod colonies, or it could be orbital stations. But they've got a random kind of dungeon generator system for generating these out. random flavour for each of the different areas that you're going into, and monsters and puzzles and conundrums and so on. That random charts for it. Obviously, you want to design these as a good old-fashioned DM. You want to do those, but they've got lots of random help for doing it. And in you go. And there's all these lovely charts for ancient alien tech that you can find. And some of it's really hard to puzzle out. Some of it's very dangerous to use. Some of it's really exciting. Some of it's interesting. They've got tons and tons and tons of really cool artifacts, and I really like them. Things like, what is it? Forest in a cup. It's a cup. You pull the top off, and it expands into a 10-meter circle with a couple of trees and some bushes and some grass and a tent and a blazing fire. I don't know absolutely where that would be useful, but forest in a cup. Don't leave home without it. These kind of crazy artifacts of the ancients. But the thing is, the ancient plague that had spread out and attacked every living thing that was connected by starships at the time horribly mutated things and made them into horrible violent mutants. So you have to watch out on these kind of areas, because this is where the really unpleasant level monsters and so on are. It even got into AI systems and infected them. So you've got killer robots and horrible mutants, and there are some races that have kind of existed within this setup that were a standard kind of mutation of several of the races that were there at the time. So there's like anthropophagi, cannibalistic guys with faces in the middle of their chests, are one of them, and they've taken some other kind of D&D monsters and turned them into wandering creatures that you can find out there. It's a terrific game. It's full of, they've got random encounter charts and random hazards and all kinds of cool little concepts and things. They've got tons of different monsters that they've done, sample mutants that they've done, starports, and then at the end of it, it comes up with a really nice little little section on running the game, premises versus plot, how to keep the action going, alternative ways you might want to run the game, alternative settings you might want to run the game in. This is a real lot for a small book. He hasn't wasted time on nonsense. Every page of it's kind of packed full of goodness. This is a terrific piece of work. You could fold this into a normal fantasy game you're doing. If someone goes through the wrong door and ends up in science fiction universe, this is where they go. It's also kind of a nice resource for other science fiction games that you might be running, because the generators for alien tech, for flavour for planets, the system generation, the creature generation, all these sorts of things are really good resources. So this is a nice thing to have around in your Games Master toolkit. A lovely piece of work. Basic Black Edition, the idea was not wasting time on artwork. There ain't none. I think they were trying to do one that actually had artwork in it. I don't know if they did. But anyway, look, hunt it out and find it. A really excellent piece of work. A great game. Easy to do characters for. Easy to just plunge in and play. Doesn't require a ton of umpire preparation. Yes, you can work out sectors, and you can do cool things, and you can do stories, and you can have evildoers, and you can have all that, but you can run it off the random charts in it. So not a bad pickup game, and if people like it, you roll it over into an ongoing campaign, because it's got the bones to be a great long-lasting campaign game. So anyway, Hulks and Horrors, give it a shot. Space Dungeons, yay!